Amigos, aficionados, sean ustedes bienvenidos al CantinaMX podcast, coming to you live from Loop 410 in beautiful San Antonio, Texas. My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you with us this evening. Lots to get to tonight, as you all know that are tuning in to the CantinaMX podcast live on our YouTube channel, broadcasted every Thursday night as we do, or if you are listening to this because you have subscribed to the CantinaMX podcast on iTunes or on Google Play, most of you will know that we had a couple of Fecha FIFA friendlies in Mexico between Mexico playing Uruguay and Mexico playing the United States. So you would think that after they've done the U's, they would go to the B's for the next one, but no, they're going to play Chile and Costa Rica, so they're jumping right back up to the C's. But anyway, we'll get to that. But before we do, let's go ahead and introduce our panel. Again, my name is John Jagu. Very happy that you're here this evening. Coming to you from beautiful Southern California, where, according to the song, it never rains in Southern California. Joel Aceves joins us. Joel, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Good, John. It's, enjoying my evening right here, drinking a cold one.
Yeah. Are you having a chimay, Joel? Are you enjoying your chimay?
Oh yeah, ya se me terminaron. I'm down to the Miller Lights.
Miller Lite. Better Miller Lite than Natural Light, I guess.
It's a bargain buy. 30 pack for I forgot how much, like $20.
$20 for like 80 beers.
Yeah.
Well, glad to have you with us, Joel, here on the CantinaMX podcast. We'll jump into our topics here momentarily, but we have to introduce the other members of our panel right now. Joining us from Kyle, Texas, southeast of the greater Austin metropolitan area, is Beto El Chiquis Campa. Beto, once again, I feel like I'm speaking to two prescient and omniscient beings because you correctly and coldly called how these two friendlies, at least on the scoreboard, were going to play out, and you were absolutely right. Good to have you with us, Ben.
Oh yeah, I guess a lot of people didn't want to admit that it was a lot of hope for the youth of the national team from Mexico, but realistically, looking back at it, it's just not really a surprise of how things went. A little bit on the United States side, but yeah, expected against Uruguay to struggle.
Well, sure. I mean, Uruguay was fielding a very strong team. The majority of the team that played in the World Cup, where they were quarterfinalists, losing out to the eventual world champ 2-0. Mexico had their chances in that game. I mean, it's not as if they were completely overrun, but I think that we see the difference in quality at a few key spots between quality, but also experience. The thing that really jumped out to me, at least, in watching that game. That's not to say that these youngsters from Mexico, won't be able to reach that, but I do think it was they certainly got a very good look at how professional players comport themselves in a situation like that, with the way that Uruguay played, and they served Mexico a lesson in how to how to do that. Now, there were some youngsters that played in the Uruguay game that I thought did very well. Now, they didn't get the goals, but they certainly were able to hang with Uruguay, with Lainez and Alvarado. I think the one kid, Angulo, kind of got a raw deal, just in the sense that he got called for a penalty, which one wasn't a penalty, and two was a little outside the box. But again, if you're going up against a guy who is a cold professional who is going to take every advantage of a situation, and if Luis Suarez goes down like that, chances are the referee is going to call that a penalty, and that's exactly what happened. And so Mexico goes down 4-1 in that game. It was 1-0 to the U.S. A few days later in Nashville. Uh, a game that we have seen played out the same way for about the past 20 years, where Mexico dominates possession, create some chances, but not really clear chances. The U.S. gets one chance, and it's all over, and that's exactly what happened again on Tuesday. Mexico hasn't beaten the U.S. in friendlies this century. The last two that they've won were in 1984 and 1999. So it's not as if Mexico are U.S. beaters when it comes to friendlies. Now, in official matches, that too a bit, especially over the last 10 years. Over the last 10 years, Mexico is 5 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws in their friendlies. And 4 of those wins, of course, are in the United States. So, what do we take from these friendlies? Joel, you said that you were pleased with how the youngsters played, at least in the Uruguay game. Do you feel the same way about their performance against the U.S.?
Yeah, I think these guys did pretty good. I've been surprised that normally after 2 defeats you would see a lot of the fans, a lot of the media bring out the pitchforks and the tiki torchlights. But that hasn't been the case for the most part. Most people have been understanding of what this team is. You know, it's nowhere near what would be fielded if it was like an important qualifier. You know, we would only be looking at about maybe 5 players lining up. So it's good to see some of these guys uh, get a chance, and some of them are going to be fighting for a spot in the team. So it was you know. Yes.
Now, one thing that folks should understand about the players that Mexico has, I mean, especially for the youngsters, very few of them have consolidated themselves as full-time starters in their club teams. And they're still situational players. They're not players that have fully breached the starting lineup as of yet. I mean, I know that people are fawning over Diego Lainez, who, and I don't have to tell you guys or tell our listeners. I mean, this kid has an immense talent. There's no question about it. But he just barely turned 18 years old. I mean, he was born in 2000. So, I mean, this is a kid who, obviously has a very bright future ahead of him.
Yeah.
And but again, I mean, he's played just a handful of professional matches, and obviously these were his first couple of at least senior side caps, and that goes with the majority of the team. And I think that's what folks are going to have to understand about what Mexico's going to go through over these next 2 or 3 years.
But yeah, and you know what, John, you could see this as, in a way, preparation for the under-23, more so than for the senior national team.
Sure, I mean, that's the hope, is that at least that's the hope for us, is that the Olympic team in 2020, if they qualify, we would expect that they would qualify.
Yeah.
If they do qualify for that.
Yeah, I do think that's
World Cup in 2022.
Yeah, to me, I think that's one of the main focus, especially having someone like the Close working with the selección. So I feel that's sort of the fogueo, because if this was like, let's say, a World Cup qualifying, we will not see Lainez starting. As good as he is, they would just not throw him out there.
There's no question.
But
right.
but with the under 23, all of these guys like Lainez, Andrade, and Gonzalez, they're all gonna be starters, and we could be looking at like Ochoa as the keeper. Like World Cup, you get to take the 3 overage players. I could see Ochoa making that trip. Ochoa, and then maybe they bring Araujo and have someone like Vela.
Exactly. Exactly.
What's that?
And that was me.
Road drinking.
Sorry, I was
I might as well, yeah.
trying not to cough there. No, you're absolutely right. It was, if they do, I mean, I fully expect them to have, like you said, Ochoa as a refuerzo, then a forward, and then a solid defender, whether it would be Nestor or Salcedo
Yeah.
or even although I think Edson Alvarez I think is going to be of age just to be on the 23 team anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure that he will make the team.
But Araujo has been
So
showing good in Spain, so I guess if he maintains, I no doubt he would be the one called up. If he's stays on track.
yeah, so what's that Mexico? They have a couple of friendlies coming up in Mexico
Yes.
where they're playing in Querétaro and then also in Monterrey. Now they're playing Costa Rica and Chile, and I forget which one is which.
Costa Rica's in Monterrey.
Costa Rica's Monterrey, and then Chile's in Querétaro.
Yeah.
And the expectation, I would assume, is that Tuca will be the coach for these upcoming games in October as well.
Well, and then there's talk that Teclose is trying to get 2 more friendly games for November, which will be
In Europe.
against. That is correct, sir. In Europe, and it will be against the Czech Republic and against France. Which those would be some
France?
really good games. Yeah.
Did you say France? Francia?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I
Les
said.
Bleus.
Yeah.
Les Bleus.
Against the reigning World Cup champions. I think those 2 games would be. All of the friendlies would be really good. Have been good games if si se dan. All of those matches are gonna be good.
Sure.
And
So we have. Go ahead, Chicky.
I was gonna say, didn't Czech Republic just get spanked by Spain recently too?
No, that was Croatia.
Oh, Croatia. Okay, my bad.
See, Chickies, come on.
I'm
Same
confusing.
colors though. Same colors.
Okay, continue.
Just Croatia is just the Tecos. They got the Tecos jersey with the
Oh
like
yeah,
the
Tecos.
Purina Dog Chow with the.
Yeah, Tecos would never be
They have
subcampeons though.
They've
the
been
Tecos
subcampeón in
jersey.
Liga MX. They
Tecos have been Liga MX champions, so you could be they won Liga MX
yeah, but their
with
last was
Benitez, the coach.
they did the Donizetti, but their last final was subcampeón, right? They lost to America. They had
They
Ludueña
did, and
And Reese,
yeah.
they also
Pony
lost.
Reese.
They also lost to Santos back in.
Oh man, yeah.
It was in '94, and that was when Chicharo Padre I think was on Tecos team.
Okay, the real Chicharo.
That's right. That's right. So there are a couple of things as Joel has pointed out on the show before. Just the little itty bitty signs, the tea leaves, the indicators as to the moves that Federación is making to see as to whether or not they'll be able to land Tuca. So the one being that they brought over the communications director from Tigres to be the Mex communications director. The second indicator I thought was seeing Tuca not in his track jacket, but in a sports coat against the U.S. Not a tie, but a sports coat. So that was the second step, and the third one, and I think one that is. So they're going to play a friendly in Monterrey. They have that beautiful new World Cup stadium, and I even thought about it. So why on earth would you play a friendly in Monterrey when you have this gorgeous new stadium? It is going to be your one of your World Cup venues. Instead, you're going to go play in the tired old.
But I think Tom had a point on that though. The bank sponsorships are.
It's electric. But I'm thinking, well, I mean, that is a great way to share the gate with somebody is to give them some
Yeah,
game
it's true.
to Tigres. So my thinking is that MX Foods is making a I know that officially they're saying well they haven't approached yada yada yada, but I think behind the scenes I think it is pretty clear to me that MX Foods is gone. They've gone the full Tuca, and they're hoping to see if they can convince them to take the reins.
But you brush off that they haven't reached out to Tigres a little bit quickly. I think even the Tigres president said that they didn't even call to say thanks for letting them use Tuca.
You,
But
I'm gonna go with Rafa Ramos from Raza, and he was saying that they were sending that message to Yon de Luisa, and I think I think they want him to contact with. I'm pretty sure he will.
so it's not really so they had to fish for some love from
I'm
John.
sorry, but if you really think that somehow is you're being disrespectful because they didn't thank you for,
Yeah.
that is kind of the petty BS that in my opinion just permeates Liga MX, and it's one of the reasons why I hate the Pacto de Caballeros, because a lot of times the Pacto de Caballeros are just this bullshit, petty little disagreements with players or whatever it is. And I'm hoping that that's not the case. But that's just come on, let's be adults here.
And what I was telling though, when Teclosa said they asked him about Peckerman, and he said that he's not even being considered. Which I think that message is the job is Tuca's for the taking.
Right.
I thought today I saw that they are looking at Peckerman. They've reached out or something.
Yeah, but that's
as well
news
as MLS.
report as coming straight from someone within the federation. This is Dennis Teclos. He's going to be one of the guys in charge of
When did he say that though?
He said it was like a day or 2 days ago. It's on record, man. He's I'll take that source first. Then the other rumor, like the rumor mill that people just promote.
Seems like that there are negotiations ongoing between Tuca and the federation.
Yeah, because they have to clear the money, so it will be like they have to pay off the rest of his contract, which is what, like a year or 2 years left?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like who's going to pay that money, and then some other clause. So it's like the release clause, and then paying off Tuca what is owed to him. So, and I think that having that game at the stadium is to help with that, give him an incentive. So I think Selección could easily cover that, but I think they were saying that they might just add it to his wages if he did take the job. Like they wouldn't just give him the one lump sum. They would put it in payments.
Right. Well, there's a lot of contracts that are up for MX Foods. It's not just that they have to negotiate Tuca's contract; they have to negotiate a new clothing contract. Adidas, like I mentioned last week, not happy with the MX Foods, Juan Carlos Osorio particularly, because he's wearing his little, the shirts with the little messages on them, and the messages were great and everybody loved them, except for the one company that paid for the Mexican coach to be wearing their brand. So,
but
they could have just as easily had those shirts made and still have it say Adidas.
But you know what, John? The Mexico merchandise is one of the best selling. So I think you could overlook that. I think there should be good enough competition from like Pumas and Nike, some of these companies to get the Mexican team because I think that's just one of the teams you want to have. That just how much merchandise gets pushed, and then not just in Mexico but in the U.S. They basically have a team that sells really well in two countries.
Well, I mean, sure, but all I'm saying is that the number that Adidas is going to push across the table is not going to be what they're looking for. So yeah, they're going to have to look for other suitors. And again, if I was one of these Mexican companies like Charlie and Fiedema, is that the name of it? Did I get it right? Fiedema?
I'm gonna go on record, John, and say that this is gonna be whatever contract they get is gonna be the biggest they've had.
Okay, if it's the biggest they've had, is it going to be with Adidas or not?
I don't know with who, but it's gonna be the biggest. Like if Adidas doesn't do it because of Osorio or whatever, that's their loss. But
Sure.
you've had strong push from Nike in the past years, which they did get Mexico for a while. So I do think some of these other companies are going to push strong to try to get Mexico just because, especially leading into for the next 8 years, and them hosting the World Cup. I think that's even a more attraction. And
Sure.
you're talking about a team that pretty much always qualifies to the World Cup. So I mean, you get to you I think that's the ultimate showcase for these companies, and it's like how many teams that you dress are at the World Cup, and I think just with Mexico, that's like a good guarantee that for the next two World Cups, your company's gonna be represented.
Right. Well, it'll certainly. So they have that contract they have to deal with. They have, the sum contract is going to have to be renegotiated, and I'm not so sure that playing in the States is as lucrative as it once was. I mean, I'm starting to see emptier and emptier seats in stadiums.
But
They're not drawing the 70,000 in Houston.
yeah,
Even in Nashville, a place where they never played before, the stadium was barely half full, and that was for a
yeah,
U.S. game. I mean, I don't know if
but
that's more of an indictment on the U.S. or Mexico thing.
well, also it's like it's very expensive, you know, paying
Right.
150, $300. I mean, and a lot of people go with their family. So a family of four, man, you're looking at over $500 to go watch a 90-minute soccer match.
Those prices were 65, and then it went up to like 120 here.
Yeah, and but plus parking and all that. But I think for this one, like the U.S. Mex, it just hadn't been heated for a while, the matchup, and then just with Mex not bringing in their top players, and then the U.S. having missed the World Cup, and right now they sort of lack right now figuras. I think that sort of made the game not so much attractive. But I
Well,
think I
my point
think with
is that I don't necessarily think that Mexico and especially if Tuca is going to be the coach. Tuca doesn't want to play. He doesn't. I mean, he's fine with friendlies. He just doesn't want to have play them all in the U.S. He's like, if I want to play Paraguay, I want to play in Paraguay. If I want
well,
to
I
play
mean,
this game, let's.
yeah,
So I
but
think
see,
what
they
we're going
are
to see from
doing that.
too.
If we look at the next four friendlies, two in Mexico and then two in Europe, you know, as opposed to all four in the U.S.
And then we also have to take into consideration that the CONCACAF Nations League is going to be on the calendar as well. So that's why I'm thinking if there is a sum contract, I don't think it's going to be the 6 games or 8 games. I remember one year before the 2006 World Cup, I mean, they played with like 10 games in the U.S. before they even went off to prepare for that. So I think it might be 4, maybe even less. And that is something that they're going to have to see how that plays out as well. And don't underestimate the effect of the puto chant either. The puto chant hasn't. I know it was quote unquote was eradicated in Russia because they were threatened with the docking of points, but at friendlies, I mean, you could tell that the crowd's just dying to scream it. The very first time, and that's that could go a long way into having the U.S. say, you know what, thanks but no thanks. But then on the other hand, Mexico has been the cash cow not just for some, but for CONCACAF and for CONMEBOL, etc. So there's certainly that factor as well. But I do think there is a little Mexico fatigue setting in, at least for the fans here in this country, as far as the games that they.
On the chant thing though.
Yeah, but you know what? Well, just really quick, Chick, is just on that. Even if there's a fatigue, that's still way more money. Even without the stadium selling out, that's still way more money than they could make in Mexico. Just because there's no way the average family down there is gonna pay up to $300 for to go see a game between tickets and concession and parking. They just won't. I mean, over there it's like what, like $10 maybe the ticket.
No, the tickets for the Mexico games are actually pretty pricey.
But I mean, like the cheap seats, you could get some for like what, maybe 20.
I mean, at least for the well, Chico went to a qualifier. How much did your ticket cost for that qualifier?
That's what I'm trying to think of. I don't remember. Actually, I didn't even buy him. I think my uncle bought him. I'll have to ask him. I don't remember. I think it wasn't as cheap as like what Joel is saying, but I don't think it was up to like $60 or $70 or $80. I think it was a little bit in between.
Because you see 60 pesos, man, but 60 pesos is like.
No, I'm talking dollars.
$5 Monopoly money. What?
Yeah, I'm talking dollars. Yeah, I'm talking dollars. I think it was about $30, $40 maybe. I'll have to ask.
Yeah, but I mean, I would understand it, Joel, if the Federación absolutely needed to have that money. They don't need that. They do just fine with their TV rights with Univision and the TV rights they have in Mexico and the big sponsorship deal that they'll get with whoever becomes their official uniform supplier. And remember, this is the only team in the world that has the official diarrhea medicine of a national team, because who doesn't want their national team associated with diarrhea? When you go to the store and you have the chorro, you're thinking, mira, esta Limodium es la medicina oficial de la selección mexicana para chorro. I mean, seriously.
Oh, dude.
That's a match made in heaven.
I'm looking back at my DMs when I was talking to Wiz, bro, and when we couldn't get into the Azteca for the U.S. game, he said I think he went and paid like $500 on the street to get some tickets.
500 P's.
500 pesos. Sorry, 500 pesos for one ticket. That's not bad.
So $25. $25.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not bad for some.
$25. See, and that's what a qualifier.
There's a qualifier against the U.S. and the Azteca.
Imagine a non-qualifier. Yeah. See? Ya ven cabrones y doubting me. Told you it's like $5, dude.
$5. Well, how much did?
No, I mean, for a friendly, dude, it's like $5. They're not gonna pay that much money.
Yeah, but hang on a second.
25 is.
How much did Rigo pay for that Atlas game when he was?
When CantinaMX contributor Rigo Ayala went to the.
Yeah, but he had a VIP.
It was $125.
But he had like VIP with like free peanuts and unlimited drinks, and the bartender that goes like.
Michelada, ceviche, and descremada, all on.
Descremada, see. In a handy. But see, that's some luxurious stuff, man. I mean, How much would it cost here to get all that? You're paying like what already?
About the same. About the same.
No, no way, man. 100,
Seriously.
150 gets you like maybe not even mid-tire seat. So yeah, I'm
No, I
looking
mean,
right here. I found an ad for one of the Selección games. It was against Trinidad and Tobago. That qualifier, and the most expensive is 950 pesos.
but that was in San Luis Potosí, right? At the Consulata.
Nah, this is Wait, where is this? It doesn't say. It doesn't
Yeah,
say,
they
but
played them they played them in San Luis Potosí. Okay, so well, here's the other thing, Joel. Who does when Mexico comes to the U.S. and play these some games? Who do they have to split the game with? Because they can't just keep
yeah,
it all.
no, yeah, they split it with USSF and CONCACAF. They all take a cut.
Right. So why not keep it all to yourself and go play at the Tamalera or over in
But
Tijuana
because I'm saying you
or in
still
Tijuana?
get way more, even with getting all those cuts, you still get way more money. You just you just can't
But
charge what they charge.
do they need the money? Do they need the money?
Yeah, it comes in
Can they can
handy.
they
I
can
mean,
they survive without it? Can they survive without it?
no, they would, but I mean that's part of what makes being involved with the selección so lucrative. I mean, you're talking about these guys that they will eventually lose money as they have before in the past. Like if the team doesn't qualify to a tournament, then they lost money already. They lost money in sponsorship deals and TV deals. Like if they miss out on Olympics, if they miss out on confederaciones, whatever tournament they could miss out on, they already lost money there. So I mean, if you could like leverage it out with amistosos, by all means.
Yeah, but does the survival of the federation depend on the Molero money?
No, obviously not. But I mean, doesn't hurt to have your coffers full with shekels, man. It's there's just so much more you could do if you have, you know, if you're a rich federation as opposed to where you have to settle for less when it comes to friendlies or even like deals for clothing and whatnot.
No, I understand. I do understand, and I understand the economics of it. And when has Mexico, at least the federation, ever not made a decision based on money first, sport second?
Yeah, because
Tocayo paid lip service to the hey, all the decisions are going to be based on sports first, and then everything else is going to take a backseat to that. So
yeah,
they have some opportunities. They have some opportunities to see if that's going to play out. Are they really going to do that?
yeah. Well, I mean, it remains to be seen, but we could see how Selección can now take someone like up to not go to Copa America. They don't need like the money from that. So that helps when they're like negotiating their return.
Just, I it is an ass chapping decision to not play Copa America. Even send your U23.
Yeah.
Just a terrible decision. If I was Piojo, if I wasn't going to send a U22, I would have sent a team of all South American naturalizados. and play Copa and have make Chaco Jimenez my captain. I mean the guys that played the best anyway were the naturalizados anyway. So just play a whole team of naturalizados of South America.
Chaco,
and obviously,
bring back Bozo. Yeah.
I mean that team in 2015 they tied Chile in Chile. The eventual winner. It was just a terrific game. a terrific game. So let's still talking about the semifinal, but let's hop back on the Tuca train. Uh, a lot of folks again have the misconceptions, that Tuca doesn't work well with the youth, and stuff that we have dispelled. The other one that I think is one that bears scrutiny is, Tuca's an old school coach, and he doesn't like using modern methods. Is there a sport that's simpler than the sport of what modern methods does one need to determine as to whether or not a player can go to point A or point B and accomplish his objective? It doesn't matter if he gets there at 11.2 meters per second or 11.3 meters. Is he completing only 87% of his passes or 88?
I don't get the whole modern methods. I don't get the whole modern methods argument.
Modern methods. What's old is new, what new is old, man. Come on, this tiki-taka stuff, when it came out, making it seem like teams never played like that before, when it's been happening in South America since they started kicking the ball, man. Same with the goalies that started playing the ball with their feet. They were trying to make it seem like that was new. So yeah, I don't get caught up in that stuff.
I mean, did Oscar Washington Tavares, was he sitting there on his iPad trying to figure out, was he looking at Luis Suarez's heat map to determine whether or not he needs to be subbed out? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This sport is too old. It's too mature.
I know did a lot to come on the administration and methodology of the CantinaMX booth, and I applaud him. It was great. A lot of the things that he did in his meticulous preparation were things that had to happen in Mexico, and hopefully it's stuff that they will continue to do.
I think JCO was a lot of fluff. I think a lot of that stuff was just a bunch of fluff. I think the sport of soccer.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. It's great that his organization and administration of the national team was second to none. Congratulations. The results on the field did not.
Yeah.
Did not bear the fruit.
He's gonna have the real test in CONMEBOL qualifiers, because you don't have that luxury to face small teams like Caribbean teams, that semi-pro players, that these guys are, they're taxi cab drivers and bakers. He's gonna play the majority of his games, aside from maybe Venezuela, because of what's going on in that country. He's looking at some really tough. Every match is pretty, it's at a high, very difficult game.
I don't see him surviving.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but I'm saying I think this is gonna be his real test. I think with Mexico, he had it. The carpet was rolled out, man. Not only was he facing pretty weak teams, playing with the strongest team in the region, he also came when a lot of these teams were in transition and were even weaker than normal.
One thing real quick, though, on the...
his guys... Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, real quick on the what I was saying about the sport. The sport of soccer, I think, is so old and is so matured that you can't study a team intensely and by doing so make any adjustments to your team and be able to beat somebody. Everybody knows a lot of the tactics, a lot of the techniques and technical skills that it's all out there. It's all out on the table. So the little things that Osorio was doing, I don't think mattered as much, because everyone knows what's going on. But like I said, it's just a lot of fluff. So I think that's a pro for Tuca, or any detractors of Tuca who think he doesn't, know the new techniques and all that stuff. I mean, I think he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think that's just fans looking at what's going on with, in trying to compare what's going on with some of these big teams. with stuff that happens with like Pep Guardiola at Man City and stuff that they see that and they think that it's kind of the norm, which a lot of times is just trends. And I'm not taking anything away from Pep because he's a great coach, but if you read up on Pep, he learned from studying a lot of guys from over here. You know, he studied Bielsa, he studied even to an extent La Volpe. So he was getting stuff from over here, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but I
my
mean,
no, go ahead,
it's
man.
a
Go ahead.
copycat world.
Yeah.
It's a copycat world. And you can say that about any sport. If one team had success doing something, and if you have players with similar qualities, the chances are pretty high that you're going to try and emulate what those teams did. I mean, I look back at when the Premier League first started and how dynamic Manchester United was. I mean, they revolutionized the English game in the early '90s, and I mean, because back then, English soccer was the way some teams still play it, with the the long balls and then the cruces to your 6-6 goal, and
The
that was
kick and rush.
and there were exactly like the 15 teams played like that. A handful maybe did it, but Manchester United kind of changed all that, and the English league is totally different because of that. Because people started to emulate what Manchester United was doing, and now, if you look at the Premier League, very few teams play that old Northern European. It's cold. We need to keep running. We're just kind of like hockey when they dump the puck into just long ball after long ball, and hope that we can get on the end of one and win 1-0. Those days are over. But who knows? Those days could very well come back. And I look at Vasco Aguirre when he started prepping for 2010. We talked about it on the show. The formation that people saying it was not a 4-3-3. It was some crazy formation that I'd never seen before in my life. And it turned out I was reading who's the guy that does zonal marking.
Okay.
Him or Jonathan Wilson. One of the two said this formation hasn't been used as prevalent. It was prevalently used in the 1920s. So he went back to the 20s to figure out what formation would work best with the guys. So, as you said, everything old is new again, and everything new is old again. It is the simplest of sports. Your objection is to put a ball into a goal mount, and by any means necessary. And if you have guys that can play possession, if you have guys that are fast, whatever it is, then that's what you do. I don't think that there's any magic way to prepare a team to run. And on top of everything else, I know that Juan Carlos Osorio did all the studying, and it was great. The national team is essentially a part-time game. You have your guys for about 7 days every 3 months.
The thing I'm worried about with Tuca is that this national team that he coached, even though they were youth, the way they played the United States was exactly the same Mexico always plays. They get possession, they seemingly dominate technically, but they don't score. And even though the ref sort of ruined it because he didn't allow like an implosion mentally of the Mexican team to happen, and then like a counter to happen, that goal I think was sort of due to the 10-man that they were using or that they had at the time. So, but it was just like the same Mexico versus U.S. as always, where Mexico gives up a goal. In this case, it was they're down to the 10 men, but there's nothing new, nothing exciting about what Tuca was bringing to the team. It was just the same old stuff.
But see, that's the thing where I see a lot of fans get it wrong, where they're expecting the coach to do something that's gonna revolutionize like the team, and it's like it comes down to the players at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter what ideas you have, the players still have to be able to execute it, and in order to have teams playing really good, you need players that are at a really good level. And if you look at that team that Mexico sent, it had very few players that are like that we can expect are going to be at that other level. Some of these guys, it's almost like we wanted to play with a handicap. I still don't understand the Pulido taking Pulido.
Well,
That's
that's a
almost
Tuca thing,
like
right?
no,
And
I don't
and
think it's a,
also
I
also you're
don't think
saying
so, but
he didn't call up the team. We're going back
I
and
don't,
forth.
I think I don't think because that was a bit of a controversy where they said that he didn't call it up.
Yeah,
But I think it's not that. I think definitely had some input, but you have to you have to keep in mind that selección FMF is governed by the presidents of the clubs, and each club wants to have some representation because it helps boost player profile and things like that. So you kind of have to sometimes like, all right, man, I'm gonna call this guy up because I mean Pulido's not really gonna be a selección. He's not really he's
Yeah,
not
and not only
really.
that, but he wore the 10. I mean, come on, 10.
He sullied it. He you have to burn it now. Maybe don't wear it for a
I
couple
mean,
matches. Hope his
yeah.
mojo didn't rub off on anyone. But no, I think that's part of the business thing that where it's like, okay, I'm gonna take players from these teams just because they need to be represented because it helps promote those teams. And so I
that
don't
has no
really see.
place. That has no place on the national team. If I was that close, I wouldn't allow that at all. That's totally
But that's
unprofessional.
the business of it, though. At the end of the day,
Yeah, that's messed up.
even if we don't like it, it's a business first, sports second.
Well,
You don't have the
here's the
money.
reality about why Blue was called us. Because in Liga MX, there's like 3 Mexican forwards,
Yeah.
and one of them retired.
But yeah, I think that also makes more sense. I'm gonna still stick with with my tinfoil, but that's also true. Ultimately, you never know if you might need this guy down somewhere down the line because you have injuries and suspensions, and at least you've worked with him
Well,
before.
I think more than anything, I think Pulido was called so him Tuca could make amends.
Yeah, which
That's what I
bodes
think.
well for Tuca, where it's like he's not a guy that holds on to grudges.
No, I don't think. You know, and again, people see Tuca as the biggest coach and only the biggest coach. I mean, I see Tuca as a guy who was an outstanding player, a player's player. A player that commanded respect from his teammates and opponents. They, Tuca was a gigantic presence on the field. I mean, I was watching some of the clips of just practice there in Nashville and also in Houston, and Tuca's embarrassing these guys still. Because Tuca was an outstanding shooter of the ball, and he was still embarrassing these guys at his age. Was still able to get them past with free kicks, from 30 yards out or whatever it is. I mean, Tuca. So yeah, I mean, Tuca understands the business as a player, and he understands the business as a coach, and he understands the business as a and for as much as he likes to pretend that he doesn't like or want to participate in the politics of the whole thing, he absolutely participates in the politics of it. He's an active participant in the machinations of Mexican soccer and has been since the mid '70s. So let's again, Tuca's a grouch and he only does this. That's just not the case at all. I mean, Tuca is as well-rounded a coach as Mexico's had uh, available to them probably since. Well, I mean, it's hard for me to find someone over the past at least the Liga who had a career as successful as Tuca, as both a player and coach. And I just don't see it.
There's some issues he had, objections that I had with Tuca during the friendly versus the U.S. Though he left Alvarado, who wasn't having a good game, in a little bit longer. He didn't make some subs that I think he should have made earlier, and then he took out Lainez.
Do you honestly believe Tuca was thinking tactically about that game?
Yeah.
Well, he's the coach. He should
be.
I'm
being dead serious. I'm being dead serious.
He should be. He's the coach.
Yeah, but see, with these friendlies, a lot of times it's not so much about winning the game. It's about seeing how well certain players are gonna do. How do they play with each other? How do they react in certain situations? There's just so much to look into. Not just are we gonna get the win? Because if that was the case, then they would have left some of the Euro players that they would have,
I know that's, but he let a lot of people sit when he could have.
No, he sent them back.
Usually in a friendly. No, I'm not talking about the Euros. I'm talking about in the game itself. Usually in a friendly at halftime, you'll see a few subs, or even like 10 or 20 minutes afterwards. It took a little while for any subs to come in. Alvarado wasn't playing very well. Why not bring in, like you're saying, and check out some other dudes that are on the bench that probably didn't get a chance to play, and go after the win as well.
Let Alvarado work it out. Let Alvarado work it out.
Yeah, he's not going to get
people.
good if you don't even give him a chance. I mean,
Well, he had a game and a half. Did he play the Uruguay game? He played that one as well too. So
that game was so long ago, I can't remember. Chickies.
I thought he
bringing up bullshit.
I'm not apologizing for Tuca. Is all I'm saying. You guys are apologizing. Joel's on Tuca. Joel's on Tuca hard, man.
Wait, I've been on the Tuca train. I have been on the Tuca train, but I understand when it comes to friendlies like these. So, people want, a lot of the fans, they want the golear, ganar y gustar. I know I got that wrong, but the 3 Gs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they want to be entertained. They want to be entertained. That's how they see soccer. Like, if I'm gonna pay this much money, I'm gonna watch this game. I want to get entertained, And for a lot of these games, that's a lot of times that's not even the priority. Priority is to see what you're working with. That the saying is, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard it, la camiseta le pesó, So some of the players that do good in league end up not doing good with the national team, So you want to see how they handle the pressure, or if they could execute whatever you had them doing. It's a lot of the things how like JCO would have players play in different positions and things like that. That's what you want to see ultimately. I think you get more out of the game by testing these things out, because you're not going to test that in an official game. In an official qualifier, you're not gonna see if something works.
To me, the least important thing was the end result. To me, the most important thing was me as going to, how are these players? To me, how did Lainez react against a team of extremely seasoned, like Uruguay? And I thought he put himself very well. It was like, you know what? If this kid can do this against Uruguay, he can do this against anybody. That was my takeaway of the Mexico-Uruguay game. Was that, to me, Lainez, even at 18, he may not have all the experience, but he certainly has the confidence in himself and his own abilities, and he has the and he has the abilities to go up against the world's best and show stuff. And to me, he was able to accomplish that. So that to me was a huge takeaway from Uruguay. Now, I did not get a chance to see the U.S. game because I was unavailable to see it. I was working with it. So I can't speak for how I might have played in Cincinnati, individually and all that stuff. But again, to me, the results are the least important thing, especially now. I mean, you're now, dude. I mean, I think the total number of caps of the starting 11 that played against the U.S. was like 4. I mean, they just didn't have that many. This is a team with a bunch of brand new dudes. Let's see what they can do. Let's throw them out there and see what they can do. And I mean, I was glad to see Chucky play well against Uruguay. He didn't necessarily get the goal, but he was very active, and I know you guys like to help up at your studio, but I don't necessarily think that he had moments like that. Raul Jimenez, on the other hand, I thought played poorly, and is not. I think that he's kind of in a slump, and kind of hopefully we'll get out of it, because I do think that he is very much in the plans for the next 4 years, just because of his style of play. It's going to certainly pay dividends if he can get going. So there are a lot of a lot of factors to take into it. The one factor that people should not take into it, in my opinion, is because it just doesn't. It's like a preseason NFL football. It just doesn't.
Well, one thing I think the U.S. Result matters a little bit is their mentality, and something I was looking for in the U.S. game was how they would react in the second half if they struggled, and I think they did really well, even with the Lainez Miazga incident. I think they still did really well, and I know Saldivar didn't go intentionally trying to hurt anyone or get revenge. So I think the mentality withstood, as opposed to past generations like Rafa Marquez when they would get frustrated, even in friendlies against the U.S. So hopefully this loss doesn't put additional pressure on these young guys to, when they play the U.S. in qualifiers, they feel they need to have the result. And if they don't, they get frustrated. That's why I think this result was a little bit important, at least a tie, hopefully a win, so that these young guys would be confident and know that they can beat the bunker against the U.S. and not have, this looming
I don't
non-soccer
think that's.
nation.
But you're gonna have a lot of players that already beat them in tournaments and in qualifiers. So it's not like you're gonna have a bunch of dudes that have never beaten them before. It's gonna be a mix. Ultimately, it's gonna be a mix of players that they're not gonna be burdened by that. You know, it's not like they lost and all of a sudden they're gonna lose all confidence off of that one defeat. I think it was bigger for the U.S. because they're coming out of losing quite a few games to Mexico and not going to the World Cup. So for them, it's a bigger deal to have gotten that win. But Mexico has already the last Gold Cups, the CONCACAF Cup. They beat them at Columbus. So I mean, you got a lot of good reference to pull from, and some of these players are still gonna be around. Where it's like, yeah, we beat them before. It's no biggie.
Yeah, I mean they've beaten them in youth tournaments, in the U17s and the U20s. I mean, well, the other thing is that the U.S. is not going to surprise anybody anymore. So that they know what to expect, and it's not. I mean, yes, it's still obviously a huge rivalry game, but it's not one that that they're going to not take as they're not going to take the U.S. as they're going to take the U.S. as seriously as they should. I mean, that was to me one of the biggest problems. In the 2000s, Mexico just never took the U.S. seriously, which was just a terrible, terrible mistake. And and then the U.S. knew that they could get into Mexico's heads and live there for a long time. And the 5-0 win in New York, where Giovanni and Carlos Vela just tore them to shreds. I think that changed that, and the U.S. has been trying desperately to get back into Mexico's head ever since. As the indicator of that was how the fans were reacting to the the miasga, whatever the hell it was he was trying to do with Lainez, as I thinking like this is some seminal moment in this rivalry, and it just wasn't. I mean, it's just a little, I mean, if Miazga is a player who has some talent, had a chance to go and play in the Premier League, and it didn't work out for him. He's if he's as talented as he thinks he is, then why isn't he getting first team minutes at Chelsea? The team that bought him. And so to me, the fact that he had to do that was more of an indication that Lainez was more in the U.S.'s heads than anything that Miazga was trying to do to throw Lainez off his game. That's how I read that. And Lainez, to his credit, it's like, that stuff happens all the time. I can't worry about that stuff, and I don't let myself worry about that stuff, which is exactly how you would want him to respond.
I don't think Miazga. I don't give that much credit to Miazga that he intentionally tried to get in Mexico's head, or I think he just saw an easy target to pick on somebody, and he did it, and it was just so easy, so obvious for him to do. There was no creativity in even doing it, so. There was, I don't think it was
definitely weak.
Yeah, there's no intention. There was no thought. Oh, I'm going to get them to lose their heads, and we're going to win the game in the end, and all that. And then the stretch to even say Saldívar went in and tried to get revenge is crazy as well.
I mean, Saldívar's red card was almost accidental. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was accidental.
There was no mala leche at all. I mean, he just. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he kind of fouled into the play?
Yeah, he was put from behind. At the same time, he was putting his foot over to cut back with the ball, which forced him to roll on the ball and pretty much into the player. So it was totally unintentional.
Yeah, it was interesting to read Caio Martino, the former U.S. player, talk about that foul, and he said how it was Saldívar had been fouled, and then he ended up fouling the other guy because he fell. I don't blame the ref though. It's easy mistake to make. But Chiquis, I do feel like they were trying to get in Mexico's head, because that's usually what they've done. To me, their interim coach was pretty smart in doing. He's like, we're gonna do what's worked for us, and they, in the past, they kind of roughhoused it, and they've kind of gotten Mexico to lose their marbles. I don't think Mexico lost their marbles, but I do think that was part of the intention to disrupt Mexico's game, because possession alone, Mexico was just, you could see they're the way better team, and that was the one thing that was comforting for me, that it's like, this isn't even their, the strongest team, and it was a weak team that they had brought, and then some of the other players had already been sent home, and if they could still maintain somewhat of a decent level, it's.
It was a little bit scary at the beginning though when they were pressing. Mexico didn't show good playing out of the back possession style football, so luckily they couldn't maintain that pressure. But I saw some issues Mexico were having at the very beginning of the game. Sort of reminded me of Chile.
Sweden.
But like on the positive, the whole Masiaga incident is that it's what helped makes this rivalry interesting, and when the teams do meet, the fans are going to be hoping that he's there. You know what I mean? They're going to be trying to hope one of the Mexican players could get one over him.
Well, I mean, what does that say to the U.S. that there's this kid who's 18 who's played 10 professional games his entire life. It's that I'm not sure how many. I know it's very few, and he's clearly the best player on the pitch.
They're reaching. The U.S. is reaching.
Yeah, so you're going to go out of your way to try and try and throw this kid off your game or off his game. Yeah, like I said, to me it was more of a it was more on what the U.S. was trying to do than anything Mexico. So that stuff to me is, and to me, I firmly believe that the last team Mexico should be playing in a friendly. Period. It just why?
Yeah,
Why
you,
they did it in 2012 and it sent Chepo down his shame spiral that he never recovered.
It's on the U.S. side. It's pretty sad because they're reaching, the grasping for straws. Like you said, they need this guy to be like the next Gooch, looking down at Borghetti,
well, I mean, I
and they
think that's
need
more
they
from
need
the
it.
fans. I think that's more from the fans than from the Federación, or the coach.
Well, yeah. So it's from the fans. The fans need that, and that highlights the rivalry, and then so more fans are going to go after it
But
in a country
they
that's not
they
really into
do have
soccer.
like
That's going to
Pulisic,
be the
and they're
highlight
bound.
clip. That's going to be a highlight clip for the next,
It
like
is one
the
of them.
next
It
Choque
is
de
one of them.
Gigantes.
That is just so sad to me. I mean that is what Aggie. I'm sorry, but I know Hoyle, you don't understand that, but that's what Aggie. Hoyle, it's what Atlas does. Does that make
So
more sense?
Atlas.
Yeah. No, remember? I remember with Gooch because he had the whole thing with Borghetti, the Gooch stare. But then I remember like he ends up signing with AC Milan, and they're playing the friendlies in the U.S. I don't remember if it was Chivas, but I think it was Marco Fabian. He was one of the youngsters that made him look really bad in that friendly game. They just went through him a couple times, and that just made the game even more memorable. So I think it's gonna make some of the future matchups more memorable just because of that one incident.
But then you have it on the other side, on the Mexico side, you have all these
What other side?
fans, or even like on the Mexican side, the fans defending Lainez, saying that Maradona and all these other players were really short. That it
Oh,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
oh
your
no.
height, which is totally false because height is very beneficial. And then just like the defenders and the people that are upset about all this stuff is it's just as bad on the Mexican side.
Yeah, well, the chaparros got offended, chiquis.
Yeah, they felt self-conscious
Well,
about the insult.
well, well. Let it never be said that a vast majority of Mexicans have massive inferiority complex when it comes to this. But we would never say that on this show ever.
Well, Monterrey has some good American football teams, I hear, with some big giant Mexican dudes.
Yeah,
Oh,
but the
they have
average
a
height
Salvajes.
the average height of the Mexican national team has gone up considerably. If you compare it since '94, just starting from when Mexico has always been qualifying to the World Cup, uh, yeah, it's gotten way bigger, man. Like you had keepers like Campos and Conejo that are like 5'8", and all the other keepers after that have all been like 6'2", you know, pretty tall, taller than that.
Right.
And
Cesar Montes is 6'4".
yeah, that other
He's only
guy that
120 years
squared up to
old.
my saga was about the same height. The guy that went square up against him.
Oh,
Uh,
Edson Alvarez. I noticed
square root,
that
square
Miazga
root.
didn't say anything to Edson Alvarez.
Yeah,
I did notice that.
yeah. I mean, but that was like before there would only be like one or two really tall players. You had like Hermosillo or Sage and maybe Jirafa de Anda. But now, on average, most of these guys are about 5'11". You know, the yeah, we stopped being one of the because Mexico used to be one of the shortest teams at the World Cup. Now it's not so much the case anymore.
It's why we're called los ratoncitos verdes for many years.
And if they wanted, they could have even taller team, but I do feel there's that stigma still in Mexico where they'll see a top player as being a tronco, you know? Like Borghetti was called a tronco all of his career, and he was like for a long time the leading goal scorer. And if in many ways he kind of still is, you know. Chicharo has beat him, but mostly because of all the Molero games that Mexico now plays. Like if you
Well,
were
see,
to
that's what
just
cracks
maybe
me up about the gooch stare with Borghetti. I mean, Borghetti owned the U.S. Borghetti did really well against them. So I guess I've never understood that. Chicken, you still with me?
Oh yeah, what's up?
Okay. I thought that Joel had gone.
Oh, he's muted. Yeah.
I just muted myself because I'm driving. I don't know if you guys could hear the car noise.
Well, I've been driving for the past hour and a half. So.
Oh.
So.
No, I'm headed. I'm headed to work, to my other job, to my non-podcast job. Um, yeah, I got asked to go in early today. But you know, just going on the theme about how the selección has looked, I would ask Mexico fans not to put so much stake into that. Like if they're not winning, it's no big deal, really. Especially in the next games coming up. Even you know, I don't think. I think you should worry if the team doesn't look good once they're in qualifiers or once it's in tournament. But for friendly games, I just wouldn't put so much stock in it. I would say, and then you know, especially when comparing it to the team we were watching a few years back, because that's a team that had players that had been together for like a decade, and now we're having players that are just beginning to play together. So it's not good to compare, you know, like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the reality is that the base of Mexico's national team, you know, at least for the next, you know, until they start being transitioned out, I mean, it's still going to be, you know, Herrera and Vela and guys like that. So I mean, there's still, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 pieces of that are that are going to at least be part of the Gold Cup. So, you know, I think at that point, after the Gold Cup, it was. But you know, I mean, I fully expect, you know, a lot of those guys to be used at least in the first part of qualifying, and then you know, as qualifying gets deeper and deeper, we'll start seeing that transition happen. You know, hopefully by the end of the hex, we'll see, you know, those guys being used less and less. But I mean, we'll definitely see how that plays out. So yeah, I agree with you, Quinn. I think that for Mexico fans to turn on the Poco Rojos at this point is just. I mean, I know that Poco Rojos are you know are always a push button away for a lot of Mexican fans. But at this point, it's like, you know, give it a year or two. I mean, I wouldn't even consider Mexico to be the quote unquote favorite to win the Gold Cup at this point.
No, but I definitely, if they wanted to, they could just bring all their top players, and they could. But that's the thing, though. You know, you want to hand over the selección to the younger guys and get them used to being in these type of, you know, elimination games and things like that.
Right.
With the selección, some of them.
You know, and the good thing about the qualifying is that I'm sure that they'll have the same. You know, they'll have the first quadrangular where they'll play. You know, Mexico. I mean, the last couple of draws have gotten, you know, far and away the toughest of the groups of 4 in CONCACAF. I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but they'll get like an El Salvador and Honduras, and then they'll get, you know, a Caribbean team and Nicaragua or something.
Well, the John, the under 20 thing was just announced. The under 20 qualifier.
No, I'm talking about the quadrangular before the hex.
Oh, the one where oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Only once was that really tough for Mexico, man. That one that Sven had. That was one of the toughest. It was even tougher than the hexagonal for Mexico, man. Very,
Yeah,
very
it was
small
brutal.
room for messing up. And Mexico was what, like a minute away from being eliminated until Bozo scored that goal in Canada. And El Oso Polar,
Yeah, I mean,
the aptly named Oso Polar.
yeah, that was exactly. I mean, that was that they absolutely had to have that goal against. And who was it that served up the goal for Bozo? It was an 18-year-old Giovanni Dos Santos. Who was
Yeah.
it that changed the course of Mexico's qualifying? It was a 19-year-old Giovanni Dos Santos in Costa Rica. So, they will have their trials by fire for these guys, and they just glad to see how they respond. Now, one thing I will say that Vasco did have the luxury of having was another Gold Cup, because he used that Gold Cup in '09 to kind of find the base of his team, and then ended up being the base of his World Cup team, which was essentially the U20 team from the previous U20 World Cup. I mean, that was where Giovanni and Vela and Barrera and
Something sad.
Juarez.
Yeah. Something sad happened at that 09, John. Something bad happened.
What's that?
And it was in one of the, I think it was with Vasco, and it had to do with Bofo, and some scout was snooping around from Perugia, and it got in Bofo's head, and then after that, Vasco just cut him out. He didn't want to deal with him, which is, I think, what messed up his career, because we're talking about a player that was very talented. He even had the physique. He just lacked the discipline, If he would have had like CR7's, mentality to train and all that, man, Bofo would have been it would have been something else. But it was pretty sad, and I do remember reading the reports how he had a spat with Vasco, and how he was trying to like demand he be a starter or something, because Perugia had sent some scouts to keep an eye on him, and it just ended up costing him dearly. That was pretty bad.
Well, he did take him to the World Cup, so.
Yeah.
He did start against Argentina.
No, I'm talking about the first time I might have the years mixed. The first time Vasco took over the national team.
Oh, in '02.
Yeah, that's way back then. He took him back then afterwards, but that was Buffalo at the end of his career, man.
Oh no, I remember that Copa America with Bowman. He was outstanding. He was in '04, right before they got smacked by Brazil. They played really well in that tournament. But anyway, yes. So that's, I mean, for Mexico fans, that is your expectation here. Which one of these kids, how are they going to do in these upcoming? To me, Lainez, don't even bother sending him to the U20. What for? Let him get his sea legs in Copa MX, because the U20 no le sirve para nada. If you're going to send him to a youth tournament between now and the next World Cup, send him to the Olympics, because then at least he'll have, he'll be 20 years old or whatever. He'll be 20 years old. It'll be a much better deal for him if he goes to the U20. What's the point? I mean, they sent him to the Juegos Centroamericanos. Why? Just point.
You know what's interesting for me in the U.S. game was seeing some of these players, some of these like they had Julian Green, and I remember when man, it was can't believe it's been that long when they took him to the World Cup and he was expected to be one of the next best things, and then I hadn't heard of him since. And to see him there,
Right.
I don't even know what he's up to, man. Uh, like, did he ever crack into Bayern Munich's first team?
He's in second division.
He's still in second division.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ya que se lo traigan, dude. Yeah. Just bring him over, man.
Well, he's not. I mean, did he even?
He could play for LAFC. Huh?
I don't. How long did he even live in the U.S. though? I don't. I think his home might be pretty much in Germany.
He's never lived in the U.S. He's in Germany.
Oh, yeah, but I remember he scored that golazo. Who was it against Belgium?
No mames, Joel. It wasn't a golazo.
Yeah, it wasn't a golazo.
It was to me, man. That was. He puts him in, and like half a second later, he's scoring a goal, man.
He scored by accident.
No,
But did you?
no le quite su gloria, John. No le quite su gloria, man. Wait, yes.
He stuck his foot. He was trying to crush it, and he stuck his foot out and it hit it, and it went into the net. He scored like Memo scored against the U.S. in '93.
Do you see how it?
But don't be throwing golazo term with me, man.
Yeah.
You don't want me to cheapen the word?
Golazo. No.
He's looking old too, man. He's like balding a little bit. he looks older than he did before. It's not like Adu, man. Adu is still like 20. Well, Freddie Adu is like 20 years old still, right?
This guy looks 20, but he's like 45.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, when he was 13, he already looked like he was 20. Yeah, he's a club promoter now. Well, that's the last I checked. He was.
So we got Liga MX. So let's wrap it up here with some Liga MX.
Oh, well, John, we have Copa MX. If both America and Cruz Azul win their keys, they will be facing each other in the. I guess I don't know if it's semifinals or quarterfinals.
So the beginning of the end for the hegemonía que tiene la América sobre Cruz Azul.
I think,
the Peláez curse will start making itself felt. So Liga MX gets back into action on Friday with Veracruz hosting Toluca.
Veracruz, Toluca, okay.
Then Querétaro plays Puebla, Pachuca hosts Tigres, América hosts Morelia, Necaxa hosts Cruz Azul, and Monterrey hosts Guadalajara.
That would be an interesting game, which I expect my goats to lose, but...
Well, that's where Chopis has his best games at Tamales.
Yeah, that's where he made his name for himself. He scored a brace.
Right. Santos León and Atlas Tijuana. So after a 2-week break, now Joel, did you go to the Super Clásico that was right down the street from your property?
You know what?
There?
I did not, sir. I was like, I didn't feel like watching a Clásico Molero. It was 1-1 though. That was the score. 1-1.
Now,
it's not bad for Chivas.
Is it true that the Stray Goat ordered a boycott for the game and did not allow Chivas fans in the U.S. to go to the stadium?
You know, I heard of it, but I didn't know if he was joking. I didn't know if he was just joking, you know? I mean, yeah, I don't know what that would accomplish, that boycott.
I will say this: I thought that LA was a Chivas town. There's a lot of crema in the stands. A lot of crema.
Yeah, I think it fluctuates, Melo, because, and then also, right here in the U.S., a lot of Central Americans they're America fans. And so then for them,
now,
and also for them, it comes easier to hit on like an all Mexican Chivas side. It's just so it's perfect for them to like America.
do you
So
think
yeah,
I mean, did at least the neighbor go to the game with?
what happened? Oh, my neighbor, that old neighbor John.
Yeah, your,
I don't. Ya no tengo esos vecinos, man. They're
oh, he didn't come.
picturesque.
He wasn't part of the package. He wasn't
He
part of the
wasn't.
package. The Joel
Nah,
package.
man. Picturesque. Yeah, there was two, and then
He
there
wasn't.
was an there was another guy that had a truck, and he painted his whole truck America colors, and he even painted the eagle, the mascot eagle, not like the eagle looking eagle, but like the cartoon looking one.
Right.
You know, the one. Yeah, I haven't seen that truck in a while. It's like a junk truck. They put like the plywood around it, and then they go around collecting like scrap metal.
Yeah.
And
So would that truck even be allowed in Orange County? What?
yeah, yeah, I mean they could say they're there for they're working. Uh, nah, I didn't go. Before I used to be stoked about those games, but yeah, just no. I think also just Chivas
More to my
irregularity, has
more to my point, Joel, about how the boleros in the U.S. have lost their luster.
yeah,
Many
but
of
but
them. There's too many of them.
I know, but also I'm gonna keep insisting, uh, and it's just too expensive, man. It's just goddamn, And then you got LAFC, you could
Right.
watch Vela for half the price. So why
Right.
why am I gonna go
So
pay
why would
to
I pay
watch a bunch
$80
of
to watch Chivas
canteranos,
lose?
man?
So
uh,
Joel, before I let you go, are like now that you have your new place there with your newlywed, they have those curb numbers on the driveways. So if in an emergency, they don't find your house manager. Are you gonna put like your house in the black letters, the black box, and put the Chivas logo next to it so people know that a Chivas fan lives there?
I never been like that, like that hang up flags and put stuff like that.
You don't have blinds, and when you close them and you see the Chivas rayas
Nah,
on the blinds, like your vertical. No,
I just never been like that.
you
I've seen fans, but I never. The only thing I have is a poster from 1995. It's it's uh it's a ticket poster, like an old, uh, and it's for Mexico versus Saudi Arabia at the LA Coliseum. And it was the first match with Bora. He had just been brought back as coach, uh,
wow.
and to replace Mejia Baron. And his first game back, and that was like when you could go buy the tickets at like at the sporting stores, like you go to wherever they sold soccer jerseys and stuff like that, and you could go and you'll buy the
Right.
ticket there. You know, that's way back when it was like just $20 or $25, and it was general admission. So you have people that will show up 3-4 hours early, so they could secure the seats all the way, all the way in the front or by the tunnel, so they could try to get autographs from the players.
Did you get an autograph?
Yeah.
Did Luis Garcia sign your soccer ball?
No, I always get there late and sit almost at the top. Avoid avoid the water. Hay agua. People would throw their cups of water, so I would be out of the crossfire.
Yeah. Did you ever Iva al Agua, Joel, at the Coliseum?
Nah, man, I got lucky to miss it though, cause it landed by me a few times, but that was
I'm not talking about landing. I'm talking
that was
about throwing.
before I got into writing, and then once I started just watching from the press box, it was like, okay, I'm not got them
You
heathens. They
didn't
can't be down there.
you you didn't throw an Iva al Agua for the press box?
No, it was tempting though, but no, I didn't.
But I was at the press box at the Coliseum. I guess last Memorial Day, and the smells that were wafted in from it's the raza where I come from appears to throw around to be so loosely and openly celebrating their behavior of such what would I say of such loose morals in promote that kind of stuff at the AT&T. It just wouldn't happen at the AT&T.
Yes.
But there in LA, it was wafted in big time. Well, Chickies, you have anything else before we wrap it up here tonight?
Well, I guess the coaching thing's still in limbo. All signs are pointing to Tuca. There was a brief rumor that, linking Mati to Tigres. I wouldn't put it past his agent to have started that up. But yeah, all signs are pointing right now to Tuca. And but yeah, Mexico Selección remains without a coach. And I think they will wait probably until the season is over to name a coach.
Yeah, I mean, there's no hurry. There's still no hurry. There's no point in doing anything now. I mean, they don't have, it's not like Europe where they have the Eurocopa qualifiers coming up soon, or in South America, that have their todos contra todos, which starts relatively quickly. So it's just the Gold Cup. It's a good. So yeah, there's no hurry. I expect Tuca to be the coach in October.
Yeah.
I'll probably expect him to be the coach in November, and then at that point, like I said, they'll make a decision, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and in case he doesn't want to, I mean, I would think if Piojo wins, only if he wins the league title, he would be a candidate once again. But he would have to win just to gain the popular vote.
Right. Yeah, because that's the only way. Because yeah, and outside, and again, outside of Piojo and Tuca, to me, the only real candidate that's coaching in Mexico that I think would be a viable option is Diego Alonso. And if he ends up doing a lot with Monterrey, then if Tuca says no, then I do believe that he will be the next choice.
I see Tigres president front office causing some problems for Tuca's release, but we shall see.
Well, that's the thing also, Chicky, is that they might name the former Tigres president into, they might bring him into the fold.
Okay, there you go.
Elinge Rodriguez. So
that would calm some things down.
Yeah, big time. So we're waiting on that too, as well. I mean, so the fans, if you guys hear that, if that ever does get announced, then that's just another nudge for Tuca to take over.
Yeah, the next step will be that they'll announce that Mexico's new uniform colors are going to be mustard yellow and blue.
Yellow and blue.
Another final thing from me, real quick, is Marchesín.
Oh,
his kick to the foot of some dude he was playing with.
One of the youngsters of America.
Yeah, pretty uncalled for. He's looking like Triple G. He's gonna be like whenever he knocks out Canelo this weekend as well.
Yeah, there's been some discipline problems right there, man, and that's America's loss, man. They don't have Pelaez right there to keep the players in check.
Well, Joel, what are you talking about? They have Santiago Baños. Is he not
Yeah, not the
greatest
same, man.
GM in history?
He's he's like your drunk uncle though. Like he could get beers and nudie magazines from probably
Man,
bum a couple cigarettes.
who does Santiago Baños know that in a span of 2 or 3 or whatever it was, he was a director de selecciones nacionales, and now he's a general manager of Club America.
Yeah, man. He, I wonder what he did, man. I want to read his book. He went from assistant
And
coach setting up pine cones to to being the boss of the guy that got him the job, man. That's wow. It's quite the turnaround.
yeah, pretty crazy. Meanwhile,
Yeah,
Pelaez over at Cruz they're
that,
7 weeks into the season and they still haven't lost.
John, that's like getting a job at Starbucks where you pretty much just they got you just sweeping and stockpiling stuff, and like a year later, you're like the regional director.
That's right.
She was like, "What happened?" He didn't even move up to barista, man. He skipped a bunch of levels.
That's right. Not even
He
barista or
made
drive-through barista.
he he made a pact with the devil, man. But nah, without due respect to Mr. Bathrooms, you know, a lot of the news coming from America has been in discipline. That could end up costing them later on. There was that whole talk about Uribe just, you know, telling Piojo not so nice things about his mom or something like that. And then you have your goalkeeper butchering your youth players. It's a lot of stuff going on over there.
That's the thing with Piojo is that as great a coach as he is, he runs a very loose ship. I mean, he did it at the national team. I mean, even in that Gold Cup, I mean, he was, one of the behavior that ultimately Piojo is going to end up costing himself the gig. It happened. Now he's back at America, and you're right, Florida. The only way he would become a candidate for the national team is if not only if America wins, but they have to win convincingly. I mean, they have to win 3-4-0 to roll out or whatever it is to stop them. That's the only way.
Yeah, because that will quell a lot of arguments. Because you're gonna have a lot of detractors. But I do think he still garners a lot of support. But I don't think they want to start a cycle with all these, you know, just with a lot of negativity and a lot of division. I think they want something more. Just
Yeah,
avoid all that mess.
yeah, he brings a lot of baggage, and and that's another thing about Tuca. For as long as Tuca's been a coach in Liga MX, Tuca doesn't have any. Tuca might be a grouch and might yell at refs and players this and that, but he doesn't necessarily bring any baggage. He
No,
just doesn't.
and and he commands respect. I was watching Fútbol Picante, Spicy Soccer, and Jose Ramon. He's Mexico's biggest detractor, man. Is like biggest critic, and he wasn't even harping on the selección like he normally would. You know,
Right.
he would go off on it, and that's like his mo. But he was very calm about it, talking about give the young players a chance. I was like, whoa, what, what's going on here? It, April Fools was, you know,
Well,
I was,
don't forget that Jose Ramon is a Puma through and through.
ah, the conexión,
Oh yeah.
He
Oh yeah.
wa- yeah,
I mean, Tuca to me, it is and forever will be a Puma, and that's not the reason why. I mean, it's one of the reasons. But The proof is in the pudding. I mean, Tuca has proven himself over the past 20 or whatever years it's been that he is, he's a top coach in Mexico, and he deserves this chance. And if Tuca wants it, and if Tuca has some demands, then you meet those demands. Y punto.
The joke right now is Tuca already gave more young players a chance in these two games than he's given in all his time at Tigres. And I think that says a lot with some of the people that were saying that he wasn't going to give young players a chance. And it's like,
well,
in his call comes.
I look at the Tigres youth system, and Tuca gives young players a chance if they deserve the chance.
I agree.
That kid, he never gave him a chance, and the dude never panned out. So obviously Tuca knew something that we didn't.
Yeah,
Tuca knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but you know what? That mentality I don't agree with for the national team. National team is not for giving young players a chance. The senior national team, to be specific, that's for the best players. That they earned the spot there. If you're there, it's because you're the best in your position.
No, it's for the pulidos and people that make business. But you said that earlier, man. It's for business. Business first.
Yeah, but let's not confuse moleros to like an actual tournament, because if it came to an actual tournament, they're not going to send a pulido. But for like a molero, then yeah, you got to throw some of these club a bone. You got to try to help him out a bit. Especially if you're a team like Chivas, lacking figuras, then Pulido's all of a sudden, well, he's a seleccionado, even if he didn't earn it. But ultimately, though, when you're going to put that squad for qualifiers or for the World Cup, the players you're calling up are going to be the best players in their positions. So that people shouldn't be expecting like that he needs to take a young player and then like foguearlo, That's you have the youth selecciones for that, which is why we're talking a lot about under 20 and Olympics. And usually how it goes is that you end up like Olympic team will probably end up with about 10 players from under 20, and then from Olympics to selección, you end up with about 5 players. Five of the youth players.
Woohoo! All right, gentlemen. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up. If
Yeah,
that's all right.
empezamos.
It's a good spot for us to end the show, but we do appreciate everybody listening here on the CantinaMX podcast. Chiquis, thanks very much for setting this up.
Yeah, man. Good stuff.
Appreciate it. And Joel, hopefully you were able to make it to your.
I'm still on the road.
Oof.
Yeah, but I'm very close. I'm very close.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, and thank you.
Thank you, John.
And thank you, loyal listener, for joining us here on the CantinaMX podcast. As you know, we're on usually every Thursday night here live on our YouTube channel. And our previous editions of the podcast, you can download, subscribe to it on our page on the Pod Center, iTunes, as well as on Google Play. We do thank you guys for joining us. We'll talk to you guys next week. My name is John Chigu, and again, we'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you.